because we have one number, there's some kind of then.
You want the
If you want. Did you check if the microphone is the input for the Teams as well?
No, it's picking up everything, right?
This guys move up a little bit so that it's like, that's why I put this down. We will introduce the six.
Yeah, I brought you an extra just in case. Okay. Well, size whatever you want. And then just puts in your pocket. Yeah. You just put it like on the. And then that goes in your pocket. And then, yeah. And then. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry for not doing the same thing. Suresh, we'd like the PhD program director, Professor Chi, to introduce the speaker today. Professor Chi.
So our speaker today is our great professor Sethi, who has brought our department from nowhere to here, and will be here to learn all the great insights and stories from the 8 years since 1997 till now, right? So the people have many interesting stories to share, and let's give him a warm welcome.
Okay, thank you. First, for the last 5 or so years, I've been talking to our junior faculty, and they thought we were already here. We were always here. And so I thought this was a good time to write a history of this place. That we were not here. We were nowhere, actually. And so the story kind of begins with our dean, who was hired in 1996. He was a professor of IS at Ohio State. And more about that later, if we have time. I have a lot of stories to tell. But he moved here in 1996. And for a year or so, he thought about what needs to be done for the school. He also negotiated some money as part of his position here for the school. And he thought after, whatever, for a year, he decided that he would hire some senior people to help him. And 4 senior people were hired in 1997. I was one of them. 3 people moved in 1997, Wajid Jacobs, Rajiv Baker, myself. And Shun Sita was also hired, but he was not able to move right away, so he moved next year. So they were the 4 people in the beginning. And I was a professor at Toronto, University of Toronto. And November 1996, Informs Conference in Atlanta, 2 people, Chandra and Suchan, cornered me and say, how would you like to move to UTD? And I had no plan to move anywhere. I was very happy at Toronto in a corner office. I had a good deal, great city. I joined there in 1973. I got promoted to associate professor in 1974, and I was promoted to a full professor in 1978. So they treated me quite well. And I told Su Chen and Chandra that I am not going to move. So they said, well, how about you come to the seminar and meet our dean? I said, fine. So I came here for a seminar, we met the dean, and dean told me that they wants to move. So I said, oh, well, I have a European family, and they think Texas is a hick town. And they are more European, Toronto is more European. So they need to convince them as well. So we came again with the whole family. That was not a good idea. The whole family was actually not for me. So I said, okay, we'll take some time. And about 9 months later, from November, okay, I was in Hong Kong. I was traveling all over the place and then coming on my side. We were deciding to negotiate the deal. And I decided to move. Actually, number of reasons, number of factors came out together. Couple of things were important to me because I want to bring to this article about why I joined here, and that article is available already, but I just want to say a little bit about it. And so, while I was being considered, apparently some people realized that I might be able to move, so I got some few more offers from the university. And I talked to the son, and he said, oh, but that school, would they like you to be the head of the department someday? I said, probably. So I said, are you telling me that you will never give me an administrative job? He said, yes. I said, that's a good thing. And somewhere along the line, he also said that we really want you to come here to get the school. You've written so many papers, maybe it's a good time to come here at the school. And that's sort of, I like the idea. So all of these things came together, and in June 1997, I accepted offer. I mean, math's not the thing that I had, and there's no point talking about that right now. So I moved here. In September, I came to the school here. Now, I didn't realize they wanted me to build the school and build the program. I thought they already had a program, a PhD program. You see, we bring people. Why I bring people, and half an hour everywhere I ask the people to meet the PhD students. They never asked me to meet PhD students, and I never even bothered asking. Only when I came here, I realized there was no PhD program here. I had to build it from scratch. Fortunately, I also built the PhD program in Toronto from scratch. So I have some experience in building the program. So more or less, immediately I joined here, I started the PhD program. And more about that later. So let me yes.
Question. In marketing, did we already have?
Yes. So we had a PhD program in marketing. Frank Bass moved here, I believe, in 1960, quite some time ago. And I was a student at the time, and I remember Frank Bass, the story was that he had the highest salary of any professor in business school that moved to Texas. And then, Ram Rao was at Texas at the time, and he was from Carnegie Mellon. So Frank Bass going to Ram Rao, also to UT and they produced some very good students here. So marketing department was definitely, and you will see that when I give some of the charts as to what's going on. Okay. So let me go to, I already told you about that. I arrived here as John Ashwell Smith Chair Professor, and the building the OM program was quite a challenge. There was no PhD program. It was almost an evening program. It was like a party school. And there were like 35 faculty members altogether. So there was no hope in hell to think about that we are here now. That we could do something, but there was absolutely no possibility at the time we thought that we could do what we are today. So let's, so I'm just saying here, this is what I found in 1997. there were only one professor in OM by the name of Lutz, and there were two in OR, Chandra and Suchen, and there was one in IS, which is Andrew. School was, I already said that, yes, but given what we had to begin with, we could not be in our wildest imagination that we would be what we can today. What has been achieved is not short of miracle, and this article is postmortem of how we did it. So that's kind of, I added these slides just today. These were the faculty members here. Raymond Lutz was an IE PhD from Iowa State. He was also the first dean of School of Management in 1975. He left UTD in 2000. He was more interested in opera than in acquisition. They begin with OP, right? And operations. So he left here and he joined the board of directors of the Santa Fe Opera House. I saw him in Santa Fe. Went out and I went to a conference, Bombs conference in Santa Fe. He was a good guy. And anyway, so that was that. Then Ramaswamy Chandra was a PhD from Berkeley, complementary slackness guy, complementarity guy. Suresh was a cumulative guy. He had two PhDs from Berkeley, one in OR, one in IEOR in 1974 and 1977, and the BS in physics in NTU in 96. And Lou completely asked him. And then Hasan Pirkul was an OR guy. So I found him as the fifth guy from ISOM OR area. He had a PhD OR in Rochester and then went to Ohio State. And then he joined the Dean of Business School in 1996. So we start with the charts. And I should thank Rahul who helped me collect the data and do the charts. And also some of the late changes in this were done by Aileen as well. So let's see. This is the vestibular ranking. And these are 5-year, if you look at it, these are 5-year, 90. Okay. So these are 5-year, 99, 94, 1995, so on. This is the orange line, is our line. We were 68, number 68 in 1994, and we are number 2 in 2023. My article finished in 2023, end of 2023.
Suresh,
Yes.
this is the usual UTD 24, right?
Yes, yes.
When did the ranking start, like officially, when did?
The race started around, I think about 4 or 5 years after I was here. I think maybe 2000. I think there's a year somewhere, but I don't remember exactly. Exact year.
So that,
I do want to mention that the ranking started with 22 journals, and I bugged the dean so much that he finally decided to put POM and JOM on the list. I think there's a little story about that. I basically told him that OM is highly not represented here because if you take the size, that's like 1/4 OM. If you take OR, maybe half OM, and you take AMSOM, which is only 4 issues a year, also like 1/3 OM, where the finance and marketing has so many journals. And so I needed to have at least POM. And so we had a delegation going to India. I had Hasan was my captive audience. We were together, UTD delegation going to India. And so I kept telling him about this. So he said, it's not a good idea to just join and just put POM because they have to have some certification. So my dean and Chelia decided to take a survey of which journals to go in. And it turns out that they compared several journals. And in the survey, POM and OM came together. Zero, POM and zero. And then Hasan came to me and he said, either we put none or we put both. I said, that is the price I have to pay. We don't put both. So anyway, both journals then became part of the UTD. So this is, yes, no.
How is this calculated again? Is it per faculty member, total publications?
So I'm going to talk to you about this as well. So the ranking is based on the following criteria. Any paper published by business school professors, if there are 3 authors, let's say, and 2 are from UTD and 1 from other, then we get 2/3. We get 2/3 point for that paper. If it is 6 papers, 6 authors, we get 1 CPIX of 1 from UTD. And it depends on affiliation listed in the journal article. Okay?
It's not per capita.
It's not.
Larger schools have an advantage.
Yes.
So in the beginning, I also told Hasan that it's kind of unfair for us because we're such a small school. We should do it per capita. No, I will not tell him right now. But per capita, the idea was that the per capita was difficult to implement. People play games, and also they have to report how many faculty there are. So it's not like something we can just immediately just look at the journal article and do that. So we have to divide by some number, and then that can be pretty darn objective in some way. Okay?
Do you
So-
have a sense of per capita how it will rank? Do you have a sense of per capita how it will rank though? I know that this is not per capita, but.
No, but if you do per capita, there are issues in the sense that people will have to report how many people are in their business school. They may also have some IE people there publishing this. We do not know how to find the number and divide per capita. So anyway, this is the ranking. This is what it is. And we compare ours to on my research, Chicago, Wood, INSEAD, Harvard, UT Dallas, then MIT Sloan, Stanford, and I included 1 NCR in there. I thought so these are top schools in some way, and so we did this, okay? Let's go to the second chart. This is the chart where there are that's a score. This one is the chart where you have ranking, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can see, since we begin with 68, so the lowest rank in this chart is 75, because we don't have anybody below 75. But the rank is based on this weighted number of papers, okay? And weighted number of papers, you can see we are business school like 141, and this 2009 to 2003, we were like only 14 in this set. So this is kind of that score. And as you can see, if you look at the score, Penn, Howard is very far ahead of the other schools. This guy, Wharton line is, no, the Wharton line is down this. Okay. So that's the school. And I also, and you know, this article, a short form of this article is published in POM in January issue. That paper went through rounds of review, one by the EIC, and they wanted to make it shorter and remove some things, and then it went for DE, and there's another revision. So finally, that article was published in January issue, but this is way more detailed than that. Okay. I also added financial times ranking because somebody will say, well, POM, you guys are doing very well in POM, so at least we do something. But it's very difficult to find the rankings. And so we did what is called a global MBA research ranking of business school from Financial Times. And you can see the orange line is going from here to there. Some days, some years, the data is not available. So anyway, we are not doing so badly. We still see our growth going on for here. Okay, so we are ranked 5 here, we are ranked 15 here. So it's but most of the articles, most of this is based on the PO, which has now become a gold standard in many places. So now the other aspect of the ranking is that we can rank based on the journals that we choose. So we can choose five journals, which is AmStrong, Medical Science, OR, JOM, POM. And when you do that, we get this ranking. So this ranking, now notice I start only from 1993 to 1997. We were not, if you go below that, we were like 150. And so if I put 150 in the score, the graph will be terrible. and we're all bunched up. So we just go from 77 here in OM, and we are now number one. In 2023, we are number one, on at least based on the study. Then when I give this talk I gave this talk to India, they wanted me to give this talk as a keynote speech, and then another one in Taiwan. And I do tell them, this is basically, we're not saying we're better than these schools. These are legacy schools, we may never be better than some of them. But as far as the ranking based on the UTD is concerned, that's what it is. Okay, yeah, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I was curious for the years 93, whatever, like 2000, before the journals were digitized. How was this compiled? Was it someone?
Yeah,
House
compiled.
deans as-
Yeah. Once they did the rating, they went all the way until when the journals were founded, yes. So I
So they
think
went
that,
through physical issues.
yeah, it goes from at least to 1990, yes. Yeah, you can follow. That's what they do, yeah. So that's what happened, okay? Now I want to give you another chart, which is kind of an eye opener, okay? So this is the chart where the score of schools in this item. If you look at the score, you see two things. One is that we are the three clusters. One is UTD all by itself. One is these two guys, and one are these. That tells you something. First, it tells you the marketing did have influence so that when I came here, our school was ranked 77, but OM we were not ranked at all. So there was that. But over time, OM actually pulling the entire business school up, as you can see here. But if you look at that level of OM publication, we are absolutely pushing other people, right? And well, I don't want to say, but I will not say, because you doesn't want to say. But we have a little bit of a hedge here, right? We have a big cushion. But that doesn't mean we should just retire and do nothing for a year. We should continue doing and we can stay there. Okay, so that's kind of that. It's impressive. It is absolutely impressive, given that we were like nowhere, number 0 or something here, more or less, maybe 1 or 2, I don't remember, but we are now 80.33 in this 2002-2003. That's the score based on publication that we make, based on the weighted publication.
What is the total score for UTD? 100 and
The total score for UTD was 143 or something, right? Yeah, 141.
more than half.
Yeah, we are. So, I mean, I invited other people, they are not showing up. Okay, so how did it all happen? Okay, so strategy. And then I'll go to more details about, I think more of anecdotes are interesting here because I'll talk about how we did all this. So first, it was realized that there is absolutely no way we can compete in an MBA program with the likes of Harvard and Stanford. It was impossible. So the idea was, why not build a research reputation? And what it takes to build a research reputation, hire some very good people and let them publish like hell. And that's what we did actually. But it wasn't that easy. So when you go from one, how do you hire people? Well, how do you hire people when they're not here? The first OM PhD program wasn't there, so I started the PhD program. So we started the program. It was not so easy to recruit students in the PhD program because nobody knew us. I think I will not even forget the name, and I should not even name it anyway if I knew it. We had a student or two that had terrible I mean, not a good writer, the English was terrible, we decided then to take a walk, go somewhere else. So it was difficult, so I'll tell more about this in a moment. So the recruiting good PhDs was difficult. And then there is such a small PhD program, how do you have courses for them? So there has to be some strategy of developing courses, and that's where the critical mass of PhD level courses, core and secondary courses came about. Okay, that was this, I will talk more about it in the next slide. And then the third part is initial hires. Well, it's so difficult to hire. So initially we can hire those we could. But that doesn't mean we hire bad people, but we hire those we could through connections and stuff like that. And I'll talk more about it later on. And then finally, once we achieved some of these things, then we also had another thing called, down the line we hired some people for connections, but then we started hiring people that said, what is the course load? 4. Oh, I have another offer with a 3 course load. I'm not coming here. So I again, I went to the dean. I said, there's no way we can do anything unless you bring the course down to 3. So we get the course down to 3 in 2005, 2006, academic year. That's already 7, 8 years after I came here. And that did a lot of things. First of all, it allowed us to hire new people. And secondly, it had more people. All of a sudden, if we divide the number of courses by 4 and then divide by 3, we need more faculty already, right? So we hired quite a few people as a result of that. And the proof is now in the pudding, right? We had 2 people we hired at a world-class level, and we gave them a tenure up to 3 years, right? Then going by and meaning. So I'm saying that after the initial hires, we were able to competitively hire from everywhere, right? So that was kind of. Okay. So that one is the first part. Let's go here. That's immortal Frank Bass, although he did die. And out of school, and we celebrated, we went to his funeral, the school dean and us went by plane to Austin. A whole group of people went there for the funeral. But anyway, Bass was very influential at the school, and he is of course famous for Bass model. I have some personal stories, Bass, I can tell you right now. He always used to come to my office and say, when are we writing our joint paper? Finally, I said, the time will come. And so then we had a PhD student who comes to me with some problem that Bass gave him, and I said, there's no way you can solve this problem. It's intractable. So I gave something more tractable. And that became his thesis, and that paper became marketing science. And then finally, I also wrote a paper generalizing the Bass model, called hazard rate model of marketing or something. So I did write 2, 3 papers with Bass. He was the chair of the PhD committee, and it is where I was a member. It is there that we found out some of these things. So one of the things is we needed a critical mass of students to launch high-level PhD courses. But how do you get the critical mass of students in OM? But we might get a critical mass of students if you take all the PhD students in management science. Not OB guys, okay? They were not going to take up courses anyway. And so management science, which is management science is OM, IS, finance, marketing, and accounting. And we designed a set of basic core courses that everyone has to take. And that would give them 18 hours. These are the courses I listed. And then there were secondary core courses that we would like you to take 2 out of, at least 2 from those courses, and that would give you 6 to 12 hours. If you take all 4, it's 12. If you take only 2, you get 6. So that was one way to achieve the critical mass. And we are still following that model, although one could in many schools don't have this kind of model. They could depart from it if they want to, but then you have to have more courses in each area, right? So that was one of the idea of this school. So, PhD students. Well, maybe when we had Chelia, let me see if I can go here first and then go back. So I told you, we had tried to hire those we could, okay? So let's begin with Chelia. We hired him in 1998. I give a little more story, it's not part of the paper anyway. Every time I speak OM, the two guys speaks OM. So I told these guys, Chandra and Sunchen, that OR doesn't sell in business schools. I know OR by myself, but it doesn't sell in business schools. It's found out in OR department, engineering school, civil engineering department, wherever. So I went to a seminar, I said, I need votes. I need vote, like loyalists. And so, Chelia was my postdoc in Toronto. And so he was a professor there later, and I asked him to move, and he agreed to move. And then I asked him, he said, but I have two PhD students. I said, leave him alone. So the two PhD students came in Chelia. Let me go back to that. He had two students, Subodha Kumar and Xiao Yue, and both of them came here. And these were some of our first students, by the way. Subodha graduated in 2003. I started a position at the University of Washington, then moved to Texas A&M. I'll tell you more about that later. I was a big role player in his move to Texas A&M. And now he's currently at Temple, Paul R. Anderson Distinguished Chair, Professor of Statistics, Operations, Data Science. I don't know how many tags he has now. Founding Director of Center of Business Analytics, Consultation Director for the PhD program, President of the Purdue Society 2024. It was me who sent him to Kansas. Because he was looking for people. I said, this is a good guy. So he's now a deputy editor or whatever it is, what the name is for P1. So Xiao Hong is a professor at Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So he was also came here with Chelia. Okay. Then we got, 1998, in 2000 we hired these three guys. So Hong Yan was my PhD student in Toronto. There were not too many PhDs that graduated because I started the PhD program there in around 1992 or something. So I graduated three PhD students there. One of them is Hong Yan, and he got a job at Chinese University of Hong Kong. And then after that, he went to CTU, became a dean there for 10 years. But during the Chinese UK, he came here. We gave him a tenured associate position, and he moved with his family. But then 1 year later, he had to go back because he got a grant in China, and that grant had some I Ching company, some company that he had to, some kind of a supply chain company. So he went back. And then SARS came. And he took 1 year leave, so we gave him 1 year leave. But after 1 year, he wanted another one, and I started going to give him another leave. So he stayed there, then he became a dean. So I was actually quite good for him not to come here in some way, because he became a dean there. And also during the SARS, he ended up buying a house for like 5 sale prices. That house maybe bought for like $300,000-$400,000. Now it is like $3-4 million. So and now he's the CEO of a fintech company. The fintech company is owned half by CTU, and other half I don't know, maybe the government. And so he gets 50% in his fintech, 50%. Well, I mean, it's 100%, but the 50% of it is in fintech, and the other is in school. I visited him at FinTech, along with Susan visited him at FinTech recently. So remember, those are with connections. Those that we can hire, the hire we could, right? That's, then come making. Well, you know, making comes from IE programs. And IE program is a great guy to hire. But IE programs, again, business schools are typically don't interest in IE because they don't have a finance courses and marketing courses and accounting courses, and so they are kind of a little bit geared to IE departments. So I think Millie can tell more stories about it if he wants to, but we hired Millie, I mean, Metin in 2000 also. So it was a great for us that this thing happened.
I remember when you called Suresh, I was in my advisor's office and there came a phone call and my advisor picked up. And at the time, Suresh was looking for faculty, I think, and they chatted for a couple of minutes. And we were having a research meeting with my advisor. So this phone call did not last very long, but that's how things started. So I remember that moment. So actually, you're right in the sense that we were actively looking for new hires and calling people, and I witnessed that firsthand myself.
Looking for good people, so I would not care if a person came from business school or not so good. And I would like somebody who is wherever he comes from. I hired Dimitri Kras in Toronto from the athletics department. Dimitri Kras is the professor in Toronto. I hired him from math department. Yes.
Given that we have only 3 people.
So for example, Ray Lutz, he was when I came.
And so now they are from
6 people. It was a small department in comparison to what we have right now. But it was an upcoming department, and I asked my advisor about to come down here or not. He said, go.
So Robin Ramsey, I invited him as a speaker in Toronto. He came with his Mexican wife, I remember. And so I knew he became a well-known person. He was a well-known guy, and so I could approach him. Connections are important. I'll talk more about that later. But Metin was also well, it was an expensive hire because the flight from Ithaca to here was like over $1,000. I remember that. Yeah. And I also remember the
25 years, Metin completed 25 years.
Right. I remember one time I took him to a supermarket with me, I think, or supermarket or one of the place to buy something. I mean, he was hanging around with me. Okay, so Metin, okay.
Maybe 5 or 6 is not small. I mean, 5 or 6 people in the common. In business school, right?
Yeah, actually, if
It's
you
already
compare
a
it
size.
to regular business school, it's a business.
Yeah. So you see, we hired those we could, but these are not inconsiderable appointments because Chelia was headhunted by Texas A&M. Homie certainly did very well, and Metin is still around here. Hopefully, he's not going anywhere. And then comes Millen. So Millen reads as a separate page. I wrote to Adon Ballas. Adon Ballas was a great integer programming professor. I took courses from him. Other than that, he was an extremely interesting person. He was tortured by the Communist Party in Romania. Somehow people brought him to Belgium or someplace, I think in Lubana. And then Deep Side brought him to Carnegie Mellon. And he used to be known as Ivanescu. So some paper with Peter Hammer Ivanescu are the paper by Egan Ballas. And then he used to teach into the program. Millen was his student. Egan also became a member of National Academy a few years before he died. I lived, I think, all the way until about 97 or something, as far as I can remember. He used to come to conference all the time. And I wrote to Egan. So Egan gives my letter to Millen, and Millen goes home and looks at UTD, and he goes back to Egan and says, Professor Ballas, Millen always calls everybody Professor Sethi, Professor Ballas, not Egan. Anyway, he said, UTD is not ASCSB accredited. That's what he tells Egan. Egan says, just go there, Suresh will take care of it. So we interviewed him, and he accepted the job right away. We gave him an offer, what a great hire, right? So within 2018 offered the position, he accepted immediately. And then he became a PhD coordinator area. Later on, he became our department chair, or whatever area chair. Because Hasan comes to me and said, oh, I know you don't want any Mr. job, but who would you like to be who would you like to be the head? I said, Millen. Now, I thought about it. Millen exactly has the same philosophy about not going in administration like me. But I thought somebody has to do it. And so, who better than Millen? And I think Millen did a super job. There's no way, even if I did it, I would not have done that for this. So, Millen sadly passed away, so, you know, it was a real terrible news for us. We will have a conference in London in April, and so this is where Millen.
Just clap for the land. That's it.
You want to do a 10-second silence? I'm okay about that. Then, Kathy, 2002, I think. Kathy, no. There was an Informs conference, and I know Kathy since she was a student. And there was an Informs conference, and somewhere along the line, she went to my home, and in this conversation, she said, why don't you bring me to YouTube? And so when time came, there's also a connection, and I asked Kathy to move here, and she was associate professor at University of Michigan. We moved her as a full professor, and so we got Kathy. So that's my initial recruits, if you think about it.
Which year was that?
2002. So 98, 2000, 2002. And then now we can recruit world-class faculty. Okay? So there is this guy here. It's also connection, but this is the story that needs to be told. Okay? It is world-renowned expert in stochastic control. If you were to name 5 people in stochastic control, he will be on that list. Maybe 3. He will be on that list. And so I did my work in control theory, so I knew him. There are some common people like Charlie Tapiro, and so we knew him. I saw him first time in 1973 in a conference in Tel Aviv. And in that conference, he sit on the backside, the backbencher. Maybe your hearing was better in those days. And I saw him at that time. By the way, now that I'm thinking about the conference, Tel Aviv, a couple of things I remember. It's outside this scope of this dark practical reality. So I was a postdoc at George Danzig at Stanford, and I went there, and I couldn't afford the registration fee or anything, so I just went there. I had a paper to present, and the organizer came to me and said, "You haven't registered, so you cannot present the paper." I said, "Okay, fine. I will just enjoy Tel Aviv." And then later on, I was walking George Nancy came this way, I came this way. George greeted me, George told this guy, oh, no, he's my postdoc fellow. And later that evening, this guy goes to me and says, oh, you can present. George Nancy connection. So I presented it, but I also. So in 1980, 79 maybe, I asked him to come visit Toronto. I had a paper in stochastic production planning that I published, but there was an open problem about how to include production constraint. I did not. So, okay, this would be a good idea for Alan to come and join us. So I invited him. And this guy solved the problem in day or two. But none of us knew how to do computations. So I brought this guy from math department named Nick Driscoll. He was a Caltech PhD in mathematical economics, and he could do computations. So we joined. So we wrote this paper during the meetings here. And I told him, let's send it to SIAM Control. He said, SIAM Control, such a top journal, decided it's not going to make it. And he said to me, I remember this, maybe you can add me. He said, Arnold Friedman is a big guy, okay? In functional analysis, whatever. If you give this problem to him, he will solve this in 2 hours. I said, but who is going to give the problem to Arnold? The problem is important too. So I said, okay, it is my idea that we should send the paper to SIAM Control. And we did. Guess what? Did anybody guess that? The only paper that I sent to a top journal, which comes back and says, the paper is hereby accepted, no further reviews required. I did not receive reviews. The reviews were so good they didn't even send it to us. Or they were never reviewed. I do not know all of this. But I got the paper, and he is the lead author for that paper. So that now I have to make those connections, right? And so I get an email. I get an email saying, I'm grandfather. I'm empty nester. There's one more line that I won't tell you exactly how he said it, but I can tell you that he has a mandatory retirement age in class. Okay? And I will not say it because you didn't tell me to. He did not ask me to quote verbatim what the email was. The fourth was, I need new challenges. So I said, okay, let's try to hire him. So I went to the math department. I thought, the guy is a math guy. It'd be happy for him to have half a job in the math department. So I went to the dean of math department. Math department looked at CV. Oh yeah, great. We can give him a status appointment. I will tell it now because I didn't know math here. I thought this guy is better than all of the math department. And you giving him a status appointment, I need $1.
What is the status appointment?
Status appointment, you list him in the bucket in the math department.
Same as a courtesy appointment? Is that?
Yeah, kind of. But I need, Hasan told me, they have to pay half salary. So I don't do it. So then we had Jim Bean. James Bean was a professor at University of Michigan IE department, eventually became president of Informs, eventually became a president of University of Oregon State University, and now he's on the board of Harvard Med College somewhere. It's a great guy. He was in town for speak in my seminar, OM seminar. OM seminar comes into play, okay? And anytime dean level people come, I take Hasan to dinner. So we were sitting in a Mango Thai restaurant. And I was babysitting my daughter, Anjali, that day. So there were four of us. Me, Hasan, Jimmy, and Anjali. Anjali said hello to Hasan. Hasan said her, she's busy eating. And then we have a wine bottle, another wine bottle. And then at At some time, I said to Hasan, "What department is there in speed?" He said, "Okay, do you want Hasan or Mr. Hasan to be full-time in our school?" I said, "Yes, if that's the case, yes." He said, "He's hired." That guy was hired as you should go there and go around. Although I would not invite you to go there because there's another story for me, but I haven't gone there for 20 years. That's good. That's good. It did not happen that time. It happened with Kevin. So anyway, I called him that evening and I said, "Okay, you are hired. I don't do the salary. Please call our dean to do your business, salary business." Now, I don't want to tell you this, but I think the dean being a carpet salesman from Turkey, I think he gave him that salary. Not a businessman salary. But anyway, he came and now, given that he's hired at a very high level, he's probably trying to increase his salary every year a little bit to make up for it. But anyway, that's just the story. Okay. Since I was hiding around, I thought this is a big guy. Let's do something more. So I actually set up the center for him before he came. I had the center, there was a board, 3 or 4 board members of the center. We had the mission, everything. So we had the center all set, and he became the director of the center as soon as he came here. So that was another thing we did for a distinguished guy who was a member of the French Academy. You know, the French Academy is, you almost have to die before you become a member. Most of the people are like 90s in there, they've lie down and all this. Here's a guy who became a member of the French Academy at a young age of maybe 55. Yeah, okay, but most of the time they're like in 80s and whatever. And some people never get it, I suppose. But this is the department where Poisson, Legrand, all these big guys in mathematics were the member of the French Academy. And then what happened? He became the director, he was a director in INRIA, with 5,000 researchers working. That's like Bell Labs or that land corporation kind of thing. And I think he got some honors from Germany, commander or something, or the commander of the Empire of Germany, whatever. And he became a president of the European Space Agency. I think that's where he quit drinking wine because he fell on steps somewhere. But anyway, all of this is, all of it, we have anything to add?
Yeah.
Please.
The story is quite interesting. I want to say that in my case, how much I owe to Suresh before he hired me here. He is a guy who introduced control theory to management science. When I started control theory in the 60s, the only domain of application was space, the space race, and the fight between the Americans and the Russians. Bellman, Kontriagin, all these guys, Kalman, all these guys were fighting about space applications. It's like now with artificial intelligence. Nothing with management. So management was. So, to tell the truth, in between there was economics. Guy like Arrow, for instance, started to see. Yeah, so he started in economics. The economists started to see that control theory was very useful for them, especially because of dynamics. Because when you read before, it was purely static, and when you think of dynamic system, you need control theory. Okay, and then this guy, or maybe also your supervisor, I suppose, Johnson, yes, whom I knew because the university where you were, Carnegie Mellon, was extremely interesting. The dean of the business school, Dean Sayers. He is a guy who invented behavioral theory of the firm. So he's
Sign
a
March, famous book.
famous book. He's the guy who started theory. So he's supposed to be behaviorist, but he was a mathematician. So he was so visionary. He understood the importance of behavioral aspects, but himself is interested in control theory. And then probably Gary Thompson. So I knew Sayed very well. Very fantastic. He became president of Carnegie Mellon University, and he did great. Carnegie became one of the most important places. Now it has a little bit declined.
It's Pittsburgh.
Huh?
It's Pittsburgh.
Yeah, of course, the city is not very pleasant, but the university was very good. Suresh is really the guy who, I think, yeah, the guy who really introduced control theory to management science with great success, fantastic success. And I learned about what he was doing myself, and I like it. And of course, we met, and he's very extremely active, as you know. And then we became very good friends. But when I was 60, I was the time that he is reporting, I was 63 years old. I came here, I was 64. I was very, very realistic. When you are 63, there is no hope to get a job. Even in America. Little possibility exists in America, in Europe, zero. I don't know about India, maybe China is different, but yeah, considered. You can rest and do something, you are inherited. So I did not have great hopes to get the position, and it played a very important role. And I did not know the lack also was the fact that the school was moving ahead, but growing. That was a big opportunity. It was a time now, I'm not sure it would be possible. Because there are less possibilities when you are when the school becomes already not old, but still not in the growing phase. And it is, of course, very grateful, of course, to Suresh, but also to the dean. Because the dean did not know me at all. We trusted Suresh, but he decided, and he's a decision maker, and he takes decisions. So say that he's not here, so I need to be embarrassed. So, going back to control theory, so Suresh remains the leader of, when you think of control theory and management science, Suresh Sethi. It's the name, number one name. So, well, and he's also a great leader. I'm sure he would have been a great dean also, but he did not. Anyway, so it's a big place. It's a very interesting place. There's a lot to be done, and artificial intelligence these days is also an opportunity, and so on. So combining all these aspects, it's something. So there is the fact that all the things that started means there is new things to start. Okay, thank you.
We told me when it joined in 2004 that it would be sitting here for 20 years. 20 years, all right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so I also want to mention again that this was an opportunistic hire. And I want to, later on when I do the factors, I will tell you some of these things because then we can postpone them. I'm just giving you the examples. Opportunistic hire in 2 ways. One is that we add one position, they already filled that. Holly Lutz of Stanford joined us, and so there was no position left. So I get this guy, Hasan figures out a way to get the second position. Like many other occasions, we do that. We have done that many, many times. So this is that. And the second part of that which is being hired is the following. One of the great things an advisor can do to a PhD student is to look at the problem that is being proposed and say the following, one of the three things. This problem is already done. It's not always easy to find somebody who knows that this problem is already done. Okay? Two. Well, this problem is so difficult, so many people have tried over the last 30 years, and it has still, well, you don't give that problem to a PhD student. Generally speaking. And the third one is, yeah, it is tractable. Let's just do it. These three things are important for any PhD advisor. And I said to myself, if I have a math problem and I go to somebody, literature, this, that, find 10 people to tell me answer these three questions. Now I have a guy next door who can answer all the three questions on a math problem. So that is another appreciative time, right? Another people asking for a math problem. Which one is the answer for the three questions? Yeah, sure.
My good lecture. For me, I mean, in the math department, I mean, I'm not interested in pure mathematics. Not at all. Why? Because who am I to solve a problem on which for 200 years, a lot of great mathematicians are working, right? So I was very, I like mathematics, but I'm not stupid.
Or whatever.
Okay. But here, in applied math, is something when you work on a problem on which nobody has worked before, because it's new. So you don't have Fermat or Descartes or whatever who has worked for 100 years on this problem. It's a new problem. And these problems need mathematics because they need models. Everything needs models. And models could be something, but it turns out, for reasons which we can discuss, that mathematics, importantly, is the best way to represent the system and everything. So it is not for everything, obviously. And explain where we cannot work, but it works for many factors. And the interesting thing is how we build a model, a mathematical model. You need to be in a school of application. But to be here, as I said in my lecture, it's a gold mine for me. Because I see people, Suresh, but not just Suresh, they come and say, okay, how do you model that? And then, of course, some people do that during the mesh and the leads at the end. But I want to strike that. That's very, very important. So, my conclusion is we should not remain in a silo. A lot of interesting problems exist in other economics, engineering, whatever. That's very important. So even in other departments of the School of Management, finance, marketing, and Bas, for instance, whom I know, he loved control theory and differential games. He was there. My only paper in marketing, only one paper in marketing, with two marketing guys who were more or less students of Bas. It was differential games in marketing. So it means that they know nothing about marketing, but you discuss with a guy like that and then you find something to do. Okay?
So thinking of Bas, Deepak Jain was one of the students who used my control book to solve the problems around his thesis. Deepak Jain is our distinguished alumnus of the school. He became a dean at Northwestern Kellogg, eventually became a dean at INSEAD. Later he became a dean at Sachin School in Thailand, and then European president of the CERBS in China European International Business School. Anyway, so, and he came here when we came into school. So that was the control theory problem as well. Okay, so moving on. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, okay, so I added this before my other talks. Suresh wasn't here, but I think that now we should also talk about Suresh. It's only because I can only do so many. So I finished. Private information, right? We were recruiting senior salary. And senior salary wanted to come in. And let me get back to the maybe another person that I'm going to talk about in a minute. Okay, so senior salary. At the very end, his sister lives in Austin, and I told him, is Austin too far or not far for you to accept the position? And he said, no, Austin's not too far. But at some point, he had some health issues, and because of the health issues, the distance that was not too far shrunk, and the Austin became too far. So Senior Society decided not to join us, but he said, okay, I'll give you somebody who might.
Consolation prize.
A consolation prize, but some consolation prize. You know what I mean, okay? So Ganesh came with the private information, I approached him and we recruited him. But I don't know whether Ganesh knows this second part. So while we were recruiting, and this I learned I've been using myself. So my manager calls me and says, Suresh, you cheated me. I said, why? He said, you gave Ganesh an offer without tenure. So here's the story. He wants to go to his dean to ask, because we gave him a tenure, he will say, oh, Ganesh got a tenure, you think he can be mad to keep him. But because I didn't give him a tenure, NYU thinks that much better than us. So my planner did not even have the nerve to go to his dean and say, Suresh said they did not give him a tenure, but could we to keep him? That conversation never took place with my planner and the dean. So now the moral of the story is that sometimes it's better to hire somebody without tenure. otherwise, you know, their school can mention. Mr. Ben Susan came without tenure because I did not know how to give him tenure. Who should I write the letter to? The guy has no 5 people from business school without a right for him. So I had to prepare the case. I had to talk to people like Mike Harrison, like Yanis Karatsas, who are good friends of mine, who can write about this guy. Okay. And so then after I was ready, I found 5 or 6 people for writing reference letters. I went down and put him up for tenure. It was one of the fastest tenure decisions that was made in our faculty. Within 1 minute or so, I presented this case. I gave these letters. Karatsa says, we grew up on Bestusa's books. That was the 1 line, 2 line letter, right? So these are big guys, you know, he's a professor in Columbia. Mike Harrison was a great professor at Stanford. And so anyway, I prepared the case, and he got the tenure. So tenure is something strategic sometimes. Okay, so Ganesh, you came as associate without tenure, we gave you a tenure 1 year later. But that was the plan. I didn't know that I defeated Mike Pineda, but now I know. The plan was.
By the way, I didn't know any of this.
But now you know.
Yeah, thank you.
Now you know. And I don't think Mike will argue with me that his name is really big. I removed some of the names because if you listen to my talk in Taiwan, it's a little bit more namey, you know. There are a lot of names there. Let me continue quickly now. Elena sent me an email or called me or whatever I remember, saying, Penn State is maybe not treating very well. And I think part of it was probably very low salary that Penn State was giving, and it was quite low. So I said, okay, I took her CV to the dean. I said, you know, she's a great lady, we have a well. Fortunately, she's not here because she said that she cannot be here. So I said, you know, we have a law is in fashion right now, and we want a presence of this. And so the dean said, okay, we will hire her. So I prepared Lena. I said, you are asking us to move. Don't play games. Because our game doesn't like games. The game is like this. You come, and some people play those games because we didn't hire them anyway. You give a salary, they go back to their school, saying you can give us this salary, the school matches it, and then you say, I said, don't do this, okay? See, I alerted them. I said, we give you a competitive salary, and if you don't like it, don't approach my dean, just call me. And I will tell the dean whatever the issue is, okay? And so at some point in time, we get an offer, very good offer. And lo and behold, Penn State match. She called me, said, Penn State is making it difficult for me to move because they are matching my salary. I said, you know what I told you. She said, no, I didn't call you to tell you this. I called you to say that I will accept the job, I will not do anything else. But I know the story now, so Elena. And then, what about Gary Bolton? So someone comes to me and said, how about Gary Bolton? I said, oh, we'll have him. He's a great guy, we have economists, game theory, all that. But one of our professors said, it's not a good idea to have a husband and wife team and all that alone in one department. So I said, okay, we put Gary in another department, managerial economics. So I asked Stan Leibovitz, and Stan Leibovitz sees the CV, and he comes back to my office. He said, oh, it's a great guy, we love to have him. But we have a position, I don't want that position being cannibalized by this guy. I said, no, you're getting a freebie. So here's the situation of, I call it buy one, get one free. So we have Elena and Gary.
Did medical department exist before one?
Yeah, Stanley was there. So this is my one more Chiang. See, the one factor that you will see, we are fast on our feet. And these are some of the examples of being fast on our feet. So Chiang came here and he then called me, and next day I think it was, he called me and said he had an exploding offer from a school that shall not be named. It's a good school. It was an exploding offer like within 3 days or so. So I just go to the dean's office, I said, pick up the phone, please make him an offer. And that offer was made, and I think Chiang accepted it more or less on the phone. I think Chiang, you can tell the story if you want. Is Chiang here? Yeah.
Yeah, I think your recollection is absolutely correct. I think I had an offer, and then I told Suresh, and then Suresh acted super fast and went to the dean, and dean basically matched the salary and says that this is the offer, and really everything happens so fast in that, and that's I now remember. I got an interview with Alan and Shen Qi on Influence. And at that time I was working on this stochastic control answer. I think I was so fortunate and get interviewed by Alan because we had such a pleasant conversation because we share so many common interests. And then I think Alan, I'm pretty sure Alan said a lot of good words about me, and then that's why you guys bring me for the first. I think I'm the first one you guys interviewed in that year, right? Right after Thanksgiving, I gave a talk, and then I went to another school, give a talk, and they gave me an offer. And they only give me like 1 week or so to consider. That's when I reach out to.
So, and there's a note that he gave me as part of his kind of impressed me that I'm a good guy to be hired. Those notes are still undone. They're still, those notes are sitting with my Hong group right now. That program is still open, so we are working on it. Okay. So there's this. Oh, I also learned, Annabelle will come later. I'm telling you more about that, about placement and stuff. But I learned one lesson from hiring. Annabelle was one of our great students as well, and she was applied to Rochester. Avi Seidman was the chair of the committee, and he told me that the committee has approved her and sent the recommendation to the dean. Now the offer is not coming. She's waiting and no offer is coming. So I called Seidman and I said, what is happening? He said, the dean will not give an offer unless everybody is interviewed. I said, we don't do that. We give an offer after third interview, even there's 7 more to go. And that's how you can't wait for 7, you lose the person. So that was the case, and we do not know when the last interview will take place and when the dean will give an offer to Annabelle or not an offer to Annabelle. In the meantime, Oregon gives an offer to Annabelle and she didn't want that. But it was an exploding offer. So I said to Annabelle, I do 2 things for you. One is I will create a postdoc position for you, because at that time I had a postdoc maybe. And so if you don't want to go, you can stay. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to call UT Austin and I tell them the whole story. And if they want her, they give an offer before the Oregon explodes. So UT Austin gives an offer, she accepts the offer at UT Austin, and that's what happened. So being fast and fit sometimes is important. So I don't want to give a recommendation date and wait for 10 days to listen from him. I call him at his home at midnight sometimes to say, hey, we need somebody. Yeah.
Sort of talking about this. Based on your experience, what do you think about exploding offers in general? Do you like them or you dislike them?
Which one?
What do you think about exploding offers in general?
Well, I like to give 1 week, not 2. But you have to give 1 week. Now there are even some requirements. Even our dean said it should be 1 week. But then the other school who wants to deal with the exploding of another school have to be fast. And that's where we come in. And so we were able to hire a lot of people that way. So now I already talked about, so these are the factors, leadership and the full support of the team, my contributions at this OM seminar, which has played a big role. I'll talk more about this. PhD program compared to campus faculty, general research support compared to teaching load, collegial environment, all of this, I don't have to talk too much. I talk about this more in other forum, but here you will know all of this. So I wanted to say a couple of things here. First of all, my relationship with the dean. So when I come here, I tell him that I'm a very important person. Okay. I had a dean named Max Collison in Toronto, who was a businessman, and he would, if you want to see me, he'll call me, Professor Sethi, come to my office. Why are you not coming to my office? Why you call me to come to your office? I mean, I don't like this kind of situation. So I told the dean, dean, if you can come to my office, I need you to come to your office. But better than that, why don't we have a lunch every 2 weeks? That way I don't need to come to your office. I will still come to the office in the situation like Sean, but normally I will just have every 2 weeks. So that happened, and for the first few weeks, he was paying for the lunch. I said, if you're paying for the lunch, let's have it every week. And so eventually we settled on 2 weeks, and we settled on, sometimes I pay, sometimes she pays. The only thing more than what happens is he always drives, except one time. All these 24 years, he drives, I don't drive, but we pay alternately on a random basis. I do not know. I would probably say he pays more than 50%, maybe 60% of the time. I do not do that. Okay, so access to the dean, know everything. Family knows each other. I can call them anytime. Sometimes we go to this party and we have some extra drink. He said, "Look, this way, you don't have to try to stay at my home. I could go tomorrow." Anyway, so that I OM seminar. So I negotiated OM seminar with him. I said, "This school is a hidden, nobody knows. We need to have people come to know what we're doing." So he said, "Okay, we'll give you $10,000 or something, I don't know the number." But anyway, it has never been a constraint. I don't know if there's a big budget or not. I have invited people for all these 27 years. I have never been asked to say, "You are inviting too many, too little, this, that." So that is that. Now, what is OM seminar? As I mentioned, OM seminar. I tell him there are many, many things that happen. First of all, our PhD students get 5 years of meeting people who come from everywhere. So you go to conference and you see these people from Finland out sitting there. And I know a lot of people. And there are 4 people from Finland, and every time you see them, they're all together. I tell them, why you don't want to see people from other schools? Why you see each other in Finland anyway? Why are you hanging together? The reason is they don't know other people. So we don't know other people, you're shy, you don't, right? So our students get benefit of knowing people. They can approach them, say, "Hey, by the way, you came to our school, how are you?" It's easy to approach people if you see them. And the other thing is that it is so important to have personal connections, because one day or another, our junior professors and our students later will need letters for reference letters for tenure. They all come to me, who do we write to? So I can give names. The problem is, full professor at top university, if they do not know what you're doing, they will not write. Because it's not easy to read all the paper that they send to you. And then if you don't know the work, it's not easy. And the schools want people from Stanford or from MIT to write letters for you when you don't know them. But if you are connected with them, you go to conferences, you say hello. And sometimes you can say, "By the way, 2 years from now, I'll come for tenure, could I give your name?" It makes it easier, right? For me to give 5 names, unless you know these people, they will not write for you. I mean, I know, I get lots of letters for tenure, and then I don't have the time to write if I don't know them, I don't know their work already. So either I write if I know the work already, or I, because I know the guy and I want to give him a tenure. And I know he's a good guy, that kind of person. So the whole seminar is that part. And the third part is that people come and they go back and they tell their school, "Oh, I saw 40 people. I had a great time there." And then they go back and spread the word, right? Because when I came to here, Franklin Jennifer was our president. He used to say, "We are the well-kept secret." But we don't need to be well-kept secret. We need to be out there, people telling us who we are, So OM seminar was pretty much of a player, and I learned that from Toronto, and so I insisted that I get this. So I got everything that I had in Toronto, plus a little bit more money. But on the money, I never negotiate. I never, Hasan the same, he got the money. When he asked for money for the school, I don't think he really did much about the salary. Our school could not find a dean. I know at least 2 people who came here to dean. One of them is a good friend of mine. He said, "I cannot go to dean. They're giving me lower salary than my professor's salary at that school." And that's so they couldn't find the dean, and then finally there's somebody proposed the name of this guy, nobody knew, Hasan Pirkul, Ohio State, and he almost fell on his lap. And they offered him a deanship, and he took it. And look, this is one of the best deans we have. And it just by accident. So many times when I was hiring people, I try not to, in terms of salaries and stuff, I try to first get the candidate and then I talk to Hasan instead of them talking to Hasan. He also tells me, he tells me that he actually says, in a compliment in nice way, he says, Suresh, you are not greedy. Because if you are greedy, I can control you. I can give you money to ask you to do this or do that. But he cannot do that because I never, and so it's a kind of left-handed compliment. But what I'm trying to say is that in academia, sometimes what is more important is facilities and connections and this, and not just the money. Because if all it's all money, maybe it's better to go to a business, work for a company, and start your own business or whatever. But anyway, that's my thought, and that's I think Hasan agrees with me on this. Okay, so those are some of the factors that we have, and then I think I don't need to talk about that. And then there are these factors that I also don't need to talk about. You cannot build this school in Topeka, Kansas, because these factors are not there. So you need, like when I gave this talk to Taichung in Taiwan, I said, Taichung is not so bad. I mean, it is a big city, it's got an airport, it's got life, so they could do something like that. But anyway, that's what I mean by this. We have and the mild weather is another factor, but maybe one of the factors that I moved out of Toronto. Because for all these years I was in Toronto for 25 years, I was never there in summer. I got 2 grants from National Science Foundation and Social Science Foundation. I got 2 grants every year for all these years. And I had lots and lots of money to travel and hire postdocs. Because I have lots and lots of money to travel, and Canadian grants you cannot pay yourself. So here, American grants, you pay yourself, so you pay yourself, and then how much money that you travel. But if you cannot pay yourself, then there's a lot of money. So Canadians travel everywhere because of these grants. And so that got me connections as well. But the thing that I see is that I was never there this summer. And best part of Toronto is the summer. The worst part of Toronto is winter, and I was there in winter. So what better place to move to Dallas, where the worst part is the summer, and I'm never here. Literally, I'm never here. You know me. I was never here the summer. And we don't get paid for the summer. So we can move to the summer what we want. And so this is another. But also, when we interview people from Northeast, they go out in a restaurant in a shirt like this, and they say, what am I doing there in Ithaca or wherever, right? Or NYU. So maybe it gives us a little bit of the extra kudos to get good people here, because why would anybody in the right mind work in Chicago? I mean, Windy City, what is there? Nothing. Okay. I already give you the placement story, right? Rochester, she's a fellow, whatever. So they was one of our students. So I just wanted to give some placement stories. So this is the placement story. Now, this is where we were in 1996. And this is where we are now. It's all the people that we are here who are here and do not leave. So I have another table that people will do that also. But this table tells you that's in the paper, not in this. So this table tells you where we were in 1996 when the dean came here, Ray Lutz, whatever. And this is where we are now. I think Maya, like I said, last one. And then
Jimmy,
there it is there.
he's under the screen.
No, he ain't there. I don't know why. No, he's there. My secretary, Raylene has to ask for it. Hey, I don't know what to do here. Escape. Oh, what is this? There, where is that? Slideshow? Slideshow? No, let's do this. You just do whatever you want to do here, but show me the last line.
I think the problem is that there's a notification on Teams, so you need to clear the notification from Teams. The taskbar at the bottom.
Yeah. And there are two more people who do this are coming, but anyway, this is. And what is going on next one? Then, so that's that, and then I also listed people who are adjunct professors and whatever, so this is the view where we are now. We are now compared to 3 people. I do not know who the adjunct professors were there, maybe there were many, but, okay. So, huge rapid growth, as you can see. We recruit world-class faculty. I think we are one of the top PhD programs, I think. We had a vision of building research ranking first, and then expand our horizon to other areas. Now we have an MBA program that is of some impute. We have started an undergraduate program. All of this happened afterwards. So once you make your name, then it diffuses into other areas, and that's what the idea was in the beginning, to begin with. This is not a B- school, by the way. Somebody has to figure out the slide makers. I need to worry about these things. I'm stickler for details. Then strategic outlook, we do competitive compensation, so much so that Anya bought his house in the first year. And almost a year worth of salary, including the summer, was more or less good enough for starter home. Although he bought a bigger than the starter home. And so now maybe 2 years of salary, maybe we get a starter home. And I was talking with Taiwan about this. I said, how many years do you have to work for salary? 30 then? 30? They said, no, more than 30. I said, 30 versus 2? I mean, this is important. So we do have a competitive compensation. NYU, for example, you have to maybe same salary, probably goes maybe 50-60% at least more cost of living than here, at least, right? So if there are questions, there is just more questions. I'm happy to tell more stories, but
I think someone sent a message in the Teams chat, so someone may have.
yeah. Anybody in the Teams want to ask questions? Hello? Well, in that case, thank you very much for listening. We can post that later, whatever. Thank you.
Thank you, Suresh. We are growing from a B school to an A school now.
Please stop the recording.
It's like a change.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to, whatever, that's already. Yeah, plus, yeah,